In 1992, one of the biggest investments by the Walt Disney Company was getting ready to open to the world, Euro Disney. This was a major resort that had the most beautiful and technologically advanced Disney park to date. It really was a testament to what the company and Imagineering could do. When it opened, there were several problems that led to what were underwhelming first years. The hotels were too many and too expensive. The park was lacking in ride capacity because guests were coming, just not staying in the rooms. As I've went through in several videos in the past, including what I consider to be my favorite one, Imagineering had planned for decades to come with new rides, expansions, hotels, and even parks. But with the financial problems looming over the resort and the lack of ride capacity, choices had to be made that saw the cancellation of many of their ideas that were deemed too expensive in favor of others that were cheaper and faster to build. Today, as you enter the worlds of history, discovery, and ageless fantasy, there are many attractions and lands to choose from, but at the back of Adventureland lies what we're interested in today. As you pass Colonel Hathis Outpost Restaurant, an ancient temple can be spotted in the greenery. This is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril, what appears to be a simple, intimate roller coaster, but one that holds a lot of history. Let's go back in time to the opening of Euro Disney 1992. As guests enter the park, the classic fun map could be acquired. This is a fantastical version of the park filled with little details, some that weren't even there. In fact, there are 5 different locations represented in the map that are nowhere to be found in the opening day park. Discoveryland had no Discovery Mountain and no Astronomers Club. Fantasyland had no Beauty and the Beast show and no Little Mermaid ride. And Adventureland had nothing past Colonel Hathis, or as it was known back then, Explorers Club. However, the map did show something with the name the Unexplored Jungle. This was a lush landscape filled with trees and mountains, and a very large temple with minecarts going in and out, as well as cars from the other side. It had written Future Attraction above. But what exactly was this area going to have? For that, we actually need to go to Disneyland in Anaheim, as Imagineers were dreaming up something brand new for both the original and the Parisian parks. Before Indiana Jones Adventure came into play, the idea was for something much bigger, that you could even call it a mini-land, or a land inside a land, fully themed around the most famous archaeologist of all time. The concept would work the same way in both parks, with just some small differences we'll go through later. As you came from Adventureland and got closer to what was a huge temple, a temporary archaeological camp was set up with a large building that would house the queue and station for one of the 2 rides to be found here. The first ride, with a working name Jeep Expedition, would be similar to what ended up being built over at Disneyland with Indiana Jones Adventure, but in a much bigger scale. The second ride, closer to Disneyland Paris' Temple of Peril, would be based on the scene from the second Indiana Jones movie with the Ore Cars. The working name was in fact Ore Car Attraction, a roller coaster. What's so spectacular about these two is that they would interact with each other, sharing what was to be a massive show building housing both rides. This model by Imagineering displays the whole land quite well, with the Jeep ride entrance in closer to us and the coaster entrance to the back. It also shows 2 very important things. Both the Disneyland Railroad and the Jungle Cruise will go into the show building itself and interact with the rides there too, truly providing a unique view of it all. In Disneyland Paris, it's obvious that Jungle Cruise wasn't included since there isn't one at all in the park. But the railroad would travel inside, just like in Anaheim as seen in the fun map. But what was there to be found inside? Well, let's take the Jeep ride and find out. After boarding the enhanced motion vehicles, you ride out of the camp and pass through a wooden bridge. The temple comes into view, and before you know it, the Jeep takes you inside. The ride would be very similar to that of Indiana Jones Adventure, since this is a direct evolution of the Jeep ride. However, in a bigger scale, with the main room being much bigger, as you can see in this concept art. Inside the temple, guests would find huge dugout mines, lava rivers, and water cascading down. A lot of moving parts would be seen too, with a railroad passing by, the roller coaster going up and down and even upside down, the many Jeeps making their way around it all, and many effects. The Jeep ride would recreate the famous Indiana Jones boulder scene, just before making their way out of the temple and back to the base camp. The roller coaster, as I said, was based on the scene we all watch and think, this would be a great coaster in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, going around the inside of the temple at great speeds, passing through caves, mines, miners, and featuring a loop in the middle of it all. This side plan shows, more or less, the layout of the land and its rides, possibly later on in development. We can see that the Jeep ride would go into and out of the temple several times, as well as having several scenes, whereas the Ore-Car ride would have what is a similar layout to Temple of Peril, mostly concentrated in just one part of the show building, one with the name Volcano Chasm, that can be seen in these concepts. That was the original concept for what truly was a spectacular project, but unfortunately, things didn't go as planned, and the budget had to be slashed. Euro Disneyland needed more capacity, and they needed it fast. With this in mind, the idea was scrapped, with just the roller coaster remaining. However, before construction started, Imagineers went to the drawing board to come up with what would replace the grandiose plan. That's where Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril was born, taking inspiration from the Ore-Car attraction, but not following the idea from the second movie of the franchise. A temple was to be built with a coaster going around it. According to the Imagineers behind it, the story is quite simple: an archaeological site with the cars going around gathering artifacts and others before losing control. The scale was bigger than what ended up being built, as a second coaster could be found too. The two side by side would each have a different temple, one still mostly built and in better shape, and another a lot more deconstructed and with more temporary archaeological material and structures. The queue would be in the center of these and would split at some point. Ultimately, the capacity of just one was deemed enough, and it frankly is, as the ride has a good hourly capacity, so just one of them was built. After what was a very quick construction period, this expansion to the Disneyland park opened in July 1993, with special guests and the creator of the movies the ride was based on, George Lucas, to help with the ceremony of the first Disney coaster that went upside down, just over a year after the park opened. Back in Anaheim, another part of the original project was getting built, the much more spectacular Indiana Jones adventure, the Jeep ride. This one took a while longer to be developed and constructed, and only opened in 1995. But that wait was worth it, as to this day it's regarded as one of the best rides Imagineering has ever built. With such reviews, Paris Imagineers would later revisit the project, and for a while there was a chance that Indiana Jones Adventure would join Temple of Peril and transform this corner of Adventureland into its own mini Indiana Jones land. This site plan shows exactly that. The large show building of the ride, its entrance, and other buildings, supposedly merch or food locations. Unfortunately, this also never came to be, and the park remains with just the roller coaster, one that gets rougher and rougher with each passing day, might I add. Another proposal that never came to fruition for this location would see the creation of a huge Pirates of the Caribbean mini-land, where Temple of Peril would lose the indie theme and become a ride inspired by the water wheel scene from Dead Man's Chest. When it comes to the original project, Imagineering very rarely forgets good ideas, and new life would be given to it in the other side of the world, over at a second park being planned for Tokyo Disney Resort, the new Tokyo Disney Sea. Lost River Delta is one of the ports in the park, a land themed to a Central America tropical town with a huge Mesoamerican pyramid. Here, guests of the Japanese resort can explore 2 rides. A new take on the Indiana Jones adventure with a different storyline but similar ride experiences, and, to its side, Raging Spirits, a roller coaster with a near exact track layout as Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril, with even more effects and theming. So in a way, Tokyo got the closest thing to the original project, with the 2 rides, or similar to what they would have been, and a complete land based on the same ancient archaeological site that Indiana Jones is well known for. Unfortunately, with this not being in the Disneyland park, we never got the interaction between both rides and the Jungle Cruise and Railroad, but Disney Sea does have the transit steamer line that stops in Lost River Delta. This is just another proposal that was designed to be built in Paris, but made its way to Tokyo's second park instead. In fact, many of Disney Sea is either based on or just an adapted version of ideas for the European park, from smaller things like the elevated electrical railway to very large ones like the Mysterious Island and Port Discovery that are a continuation of old Discoveryland plans. Now, Disneyland Park in Paris carries on without any expansion since Space Mountain in 1995, and all the rides are pushed to their limits, Indiana Jones showing many signs of old age. A lot of the original theming that made the ride interesting to look at has unfortunately been removed, like the wooden planks under the rails. The plot of land on the side of it remains empty and waiting for something. In fact, last week we went around the resort discovering all the expansion plots of Disneyland Paris, so make sure to watch that one too. Well, with that, we come to the end of the video. Do you think the original idea would work nicely? Would you change anything? Let me know down below. And now, as always, thank you for watching, and that's a wrap.